Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I greatly apologize for the delay in getting some content out. I went on vacation, came back, got sick immediately, and just had to delay myself to get myself back to 100% before I could get this content out for you guys. Now, we do have 1 week left, really, before fantasy football season is here. Draft season is in full swing. So I am going to get you guys, hopefully, 6 videos out in the final week before that last weekend prior to the season starting, so we can get you guys fully prepared and ready to dominate your drafts and your opponents this season. For the week, my plan is to do a best quarterback 2 to target video. That is this one. We're gonna get those out for SuperFlex players. I also have an RB2 target video that I wanna get out. And then we're gonna do something a little bit different as far as the style that I'm used to. I'm just gonna run through some of my least favorite players and ones that I'm fading pretty significantly. I'm gonna do that for all the positions. Maybe get quarterback in there as well. And then I'm going to look at my most undervalued players. These are players that I seem to be getting a lot of stock in most of the drafts that I am doing. So that is what is on the docket for the week. Now, in this video, it's really for those in 2 quarterback and super flex leagues. I think everyone should be a part of these at this point because the NFL is a passing league and that is not changing because we want to prioritize the quarterbacks. It's the most important position on the field for a reason, and I think that 2 QB leagues and super flex leagues do that best. Now, the ADP that I am putting on here is from Fantasy Football Calculator, and that is from the 2 quarterback leagues. For those in the 1 quarterback league next, those are coming from UnderdogFantasy.com. My 2 favorite quarterbacks that are outside of QB1 range right now, I have already covered. Check out my top 15 quarterback video if you want more insight on both Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins. With that all done, if you guys are new to the channel, if you haven't done it yet, I would greatly appreciate a like and a subscribe. It helps me out so very much, enables me to do what I love, and that way I can keep bringing you guys the content that you love. Let's kick it off. I'm gonna start with Justin Fields. In 2 QB leagues, he's currently sitting with an ADP of 67, 147 for 1 QB leagues. He is QB 17 right now. There is a lot to love about Justin Fields, and though I get the concerns, I think the positives outweigh the negatives when we are looking at overall upside. He is a bit of a risk. The Bears offense overall is really one that I am trying to avoid in 2022. But with that being said, we did see flashes from him last year. We know he can get it done on the ground if all else fails, and so that alone boosts his value significantly. One of the reasons I really love his ADP is that Tua Tagovailoa is the QB 16, and he is going about a round before Fields in 2 QB leagues. So you have to love that, and I don't see really too much of a drop off as far as tiers go with Fields. Now, the Bears are going to be a run first team. I think that's fairly obvious that that is what they want to do most, but at least Fields has Darnell Mooney, who started to break out last year, and there is that hype about Cole Kmet also busting out from the tight end position, so he has a couple weapons to work with. We also know that he's got David Montgomery, and while I don't love Montgomery per se, he is a very capable pass-catching back who's going to be a safety valve for Fields. When we talk about Cole Kmet, I think the emergence from him would do wonders for Fields' game, give him another safety blanket underneath if he has to get out of the pocket, which he is going to pretty often, I think, because that Bears offensive line is below average. Over Fields' last 6 healthy games, he averaged 56 yards rushing. So we talked about that upside. He has it in bunches when it comes to work on the ground, and that is going to help keep him a viable option in the fantasy football landscape. In the last 5 games that he started, he had performances of 26, 19, 20, and 17 points, and that solid production could be a sign of things to come. He may be a risk-reward pick but the payoff is worth it if he hits. The next guy that I want to discuss is Tua Tagovailoa, currently with an ADP of 51 in 2 QB leagues and 142 outside of that. He's QB 16. I was really close to having Tua as a top 15 quarterback. He was the next man up on my list. There is a lot to love about what Miami did in the offseason. Of course, that starts with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They are going to be a formidable duo. It's going to be really hard, I think, for defenses to account for all of that speed. And I think this offense is going to be predicated on a lot of quick strikes that allow both Waddle and Hill to use their yard after the catch ability to make plays. And we know that they are both explosive in that regard. Now, Mike Gesicki, he also broke out a little bit last year, and that gives Tua a really deep group of pass catchers. I get that Miami does not have a high quality running back. They went with more of the quantity than they did quality. But Chase Edmonds is not half bad, and especially if he can stay healthy. We have already seen him be able to catch balls out of the backfield, so that helps Tua as well. And then the biggest piece here that I think people are maybe not looking as far into is that offensive line for Miami. They completely revamped it. Now, of course they had to, because it was an absolute dumpster fire last year. But I think they did enough in Miami to at least have an average offensive line, and that will be a big difference maker for Tua. In 8 games for Tua from week 6 to week 15, he had over 6 games that included 15-point performances, and 2 of those were over 22 points. Now, that may not totally blow you away with his current ADP, but it does give me hope that he should be able to produce solid numbers with all of those additions that we just discussed. They have that added weapon in Tyreek Hill, the offensive line being massively upgraded, and one of those running backs between Sony Michel, Chase Edmonds, and Raheem Mostert are going to, if not break out, at least be viable enough to look better than what Miami had going last year. Which means if Tua takes even a small step forward, he is going to justify this ADP. The next guy that I like at his cost is Jameis Winston, ADP of 64 in 2 quarterback leagues, 188 if you're looking at ones, and he is the QB21. And while I may not absolutely love Winston this year, I also cannot be blind to the fact that there is a world where he greatly exceeds expectations and he ends up maybe inside the top 15 at the position. And while I don't think that is likely, because of his ADP, it does not have to be, and it's not supposed to be. The fact of the matter is that Jameis Winston was decent in an offense last year without any real threat outside of Alvin Kamara. He threw 14 touchdowns to just 3 picks in the basically 6 weeks that he played. Now, the offensive line here, it is still good. I know they lost Teron Armstead, and that will hurt a little bit, but it is still going to be an above average unit. Now, there are a lot of ifs here. The first one is Michael Thomas. When he comes back, is he going to be able to return to his old form, or at least close to it? Is Chris Olave going to be a solid wide receiver 2 option? Is Jarvis Landry washed, or does he still have something left in the tank? And finally, if Alvin Kamara is going to be able to avoid suspension. Now, that looks more and more likely, but it is certainly not a guarantee. But if all of those things work out in the Saints' favor, they actually have a fairly decent offensive unit that is shaping up here. Another step forward for Winston, who is now in year 3 of this offense, would be huge for New Orleans. And I think that extra year to learn is going to make him a better quarterback here. And this would all pave the way for Winston to really outperform this ADP. Davis Mills is my next guy. He's got an ADP of 122, 214 in 1 quarterback leagues. He's quarterback 24. He's basically free and being forgotten about. And I get it. It's the Houston Texans. There's not a lot to love about them, but Mills has been consistently underrated from the get-go, and I'm here to help change that narrative a little bit. He is not gonna light anyone up, and we're not expecting that at this price point. But he did show progress basically week in and week out last year for a team that was as close as you can get to tanking outside of Miami a couple of years ago. For a player that is ranked outside the top 25 on ESPN, the quarterback 28 on Fantasy Pros, at the time of recording this, Mills provides a lot more than you would think. He still has Brandon Cooks, who is basically an auto set it for 1,000 yards, no matter who's throwing him passes. And Nico Collins, I think, is better than people give him credit for. He started showing promise at the end of last season. In that wide receiver 2 role, he should fit in really nicely, and he could help elevate Mills even more. The running back room here could be a mess, I will give you that, but Dameon Pierce is getting a ton of hype as the preseason rolls on, and he could certainly win that 3-down workhorse role for the Texans, and that would give just another weapon and option for Mills. The Texans, finally, they're going to be behind a lot. They're going to be throwing a lot because of it, and garbage time points still count in fantasy football. Davis Mills had 15 plus points in 4 out of his last 5 games, and he had a 27 plus game in week 18. So the ascension towards the end of the year, you love to see it. And during that time, he threw 9 touchdowns to just 2 picks. I think this clearly shows some upside for Mills that most people are just forgetting about or discounting entirely. And at his cost, there are definitely worse ways you can go if you have just punted the position in 2 quarterback leagues. Now, my sleeper pick, the last guy that I want to talk about in this video, is Zach Wilson, current ADP of 113, 232 QB 29. So he is on the bottom of the pile right now. I get it, that injury happened in preseason and people are completely off him, but all of the things that we were excited about before that injury and before the fall in ADP are still present. I think Gang Green has more to be excited about this year than they have for a very long time. The offense finally have the makings of a unit that is at least going to be competitive. They have a lot of youth, and I get that. So at the very least, they're gonna be fun to watch. I'm a little concerned about the rookies, the second-year players being asked to do so much in this offense, but I also think that means that 1 or maybe 2 of these guys are bound to break out and give Wilson the help that he needs. We saw it a little bit last year with Elijah Moore, who's getting plenty of hype in camp. And when Michael Carter was healthy last year, he was actually above average and did some really good things for this offense. Then we get to the additions of Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall, so there is plenty of pedigree to go around for the playmakers in New York. Now they just need to take that and perform on it. So that all brings us back to Zach Wilson, and he may have struggled mightily, especially early on last year, but he started to turn it around as the season went on. He didn't throw a pick in his final 5 games, and there is hope that that can help his trajectory as we move forward. We also saw a massive uptick on his usage on the ground, and we cannot say enough for the importance of that in fantasy football. He had just 25 yards rushing over his first 8 games, and then exploded over his final 5 with 160 to finish the year. The final thing I would say is that the Jets offense is going to be better this year. They're going to score more touchdowns. As far as the injury that we talked about with Wilson, I obviously don't love it, but the silver lining in all this is that now he's going to be even cheaper. He's basically free at this point, which is a plus. I think there is top 18 upside for Wilson in 2022, and at his current price, he is a definite buy. And that is all that I have for you guys for this QB2 video. I really hope you enjoyed the content. I hope you learned something, and that is going to prepare you for what is to come. If you guys haven't done it yet, if you've enjoyed content from me in the past, or you loved this video, let me know with a like, let me know with a subscribe. It helps me out a ton, and I cannot thank my current subscribers enough. I could not do this without you guys. Keep an eye out for all the videos that I have coming out this week. We're gonna fully prepare you for the final pre-draft week in fantasy football. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abraham Opatz, and we will see you next time.